Hi, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you so much for joining Social Impact Movements, the status of gender equality across the globe panel discussion to celebrate this special day. My name is Madeline Ley, and I am the Sustainable Development Goal 5 Gender Equality Ambassador from Miami, Florida. I am a freshman studying political science and women's gender and sexuality studies at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. I am also the founder of Shrink the Gap, an initiative that aims to fight the gender pay gap through salary negotiation, advocacy, and increasing awareness about the status of women in the workforce. It's an honor to host this panel today. In this panel, we will connect 5 young women from 5 different countries and discuss their work to advance SDG 5. We will also discuss solutions on how to expand our social impact to an international level from wherever we are in the world. I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Himaja Nagareti from Acton, Massachusetts. Himaja is the Northeast Region representative of the UNA USA National Council and the co-chair of UNA Women, where she advocates for and leads programming on gender equity for campus and community chapter members on a national level. She also serves as a UNA USA representative on the Civil Society Working Group on Women, Peace, and Security at the US Institute of Peace. Himaja is currently a Master of Science candidate in the Environmental Health Epidemiology at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, pursuing a concentration in infectious disease epidemiology. She graduated from the University of Connecticut in 2020 with degrees in physiology and neurobiology, molecular and cell biology, sociology, and minors in bioinformatics and chemistry.
Thank you all so much for being here, and Madeline, thank you so much for that wonderful intro. It's a real big honor to be here. And I'm going to preface by saying I'm not the best public speaker. So forgive me if I use too many filler words and things like that. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. And I wanted to start off with just a personal story because as all great advocates know, stories are one of those great ways that we can connect with other people and really bring to light and provide examples of why we do the work that we do. So when I was in high school, kind of just starting off, thinking about my future and what I wanted to do, I never considered myself an advocate. And I always thought to myself that, I would look at, these politicians and these people on screen, and I would think to myself, I could never be in that space. I would look at advocates, standing in front of huge crowds and calling for change. And I would think to myself, I choke whenever I stand in front of class for my speech and debate class. Like there's no way I could even potentially think of doing that. And then I went to UConn for my undergrad. And that was really kind of where a lot of things clicked for me. So I met people who were advocates, who called themselves advocates, but were very vocal about their fear of public speaking. I met people who were advocates, even though they were full-time students and wanted to pursue other things. And they were using their advocacy as a platform to embrace making change in the spaces that they wanted to make change and work in. And even in spaces that they didn't necessarily see themselves working in the future, but just topics they were passionate about. And it really taught me that advocacy, we use it, and oftentimes we have a very stereotypical idea of what an advocate is in our heads. But that is not necessarily what an advocate is. And I thought to myself, maybe I kind of need to do a little bit more soul searching on what advocacy really is, and what potentially could be my place and the space I embrace in these types of areas. So I ended up joining UNA USA, which is the organization I'm representing today. So it's been 5 years since I've been a part of this organization. And I started off as a chapter member. I kind of looked online. I was looking for extracurriculars, I'll be honest, and I found UNA USA, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds cool. I'm not really sure what any of this really is, but we're gonna go for it," as many young people do. So I started up a chapter, ended up going to national council a year later through running in the elections. And being in that space was probably the most eye-opening thing that I had done up to that date, because I was suddenly in a space full of people from all over the nation and all over the globe. And everyone there was an advocate in their own right. And there were people of all ages, of all demographics, of all different commitment levels. And that really just opened my eyes to what an advocate could mean. And the meaning I got, the definition that I got from that was that an advocate can basically mean anything you want it to be. And through that, I also discovered and started to embrace the importance of bringing more youth voices to the table. Too often, I found myself in places where I was the only youth in the room, whether it was a physical room or a virtual room back in the day. And it made me think to myself, this shouldn't be the case. Like, I shouldn't be the only person here in these spaces trying to represent the youth voice, because there's way too many youth of way too many different backgrounds for me just to be the sole voice in that room talking about issues that young people are passionate about. And so through UNA USA, I realized the importance of bringing youth voices at international conferences like the Commission for the Status of Women, like organizations like the Civil Society Working Group on Women, Peace and Security, which I now am a part of, that does a lot of policy advocacy work in the community and in DC, lobbying congressmen and women for change on important issues. And through that, it really opened my eyes to the importance of bringing more voices to the table and the impact that I could have potentially as a young person to really advocate for that change and to be that person who says, this is not acceptable, this change needs to happen. And as I learned to embrace these opportunities, I also really want to give a shout out to the other women in my life who really helped me reach that point of being able to advocate for myself, advocate for others, and also provide platforms to pull other people in. And through that, through being inspired by these other incredible women in my life, people that I saw on TV, people that I had the opportunity to sit in meetings with, people in my own family. It was through really embracing the change makers of women in my life that I realized the full potential of the importance and the full potential of having women in these spaces of change in all sectors. Um, and through my experiences, I also started discovering for myself the importance of intersectionality, because too often we talk about gender equity as kind of a blanket term. We kind of leave it at that. But the importance of gender equity is how it intersects with the other SDGs. I see Claudia has the SDGs in her background, and I'm so happy that you do, because one thing we always talk about at UNA USA is how you cannot address gender equity sustainable development goal 5 without talking about all the other 16 sustainable development goals. It's basically impossible. And if you try to, you never are going to address the issues that you need to. And through also just being in these spaces of change, whether it was conferences or webinars or just meeting one-to-one with people, I started collecting vignettes, stories of other people that were also change makers and that were the embodiment of why we talk about the intersectionality of gender equity. And so I wanted to highlight a few stories. So climate and gender equity, for example, is something that I didn't really think was much of a big issue. I didn't understand the significance of it, but attending the UN climate change conference in 2019 or 2020. No, 2019. Wow, it's been quite some time since COVID started. 2019 in Madrid, Spain was a really eye-opening opportunity. And there was this one lady I remember who was listening. She was an audience member. The panel was talking about climate change and sea level rise. And at the end of it, she stood up because she wanted to ask a question. And she asked the panelists, look, you guys are the head of states. You guys have the power to influence change if you wanted to. And you're talking about climate change like it's a hypothetical. But I'll tell you, in my own home, I live in an island nation, and climate change isn't a hypothetical. My house is disappearing. My home is disappearing. The people that I love are being displaced as we speak right now. It's not a hypothetical, and it never was to begin with. And disproportionately, it's women that suffer from climate change. It's women and children who are most affected by the displacement of climate, that are most affected by displacement. We see that they're disproportionately climate refugees. And that was just something that really struck me. Disability and gender equity was another issue that I didn't really learn more about until I heard the stories and started listening more carefully to what other people were telling me. One of my good friends and actually co-chair of UNA Women, London Bell, discussed and is very vocal about her experiences of being a person with a disability and having a really hard time advocating. We had the opportunity to go to Capitol Hill to do some lobbying. And I remember at the end of it, she told me yeah, it was a great day, but honestly, it was such a stressful day. She requires an oxygen tank. And when she was walking through Capitol Hill, when she was walking through the halls of the Senate, she could not find a bench to sit down to recharge her oxygen tank. She couldn't find any plugs in the vicinity. And that in itself prevented her from talking with several of the senators that she had on her list that she wanted to speak with, that she had already scheduled meetings with. But because of the lack of accessibility, she wasn't able to do that. And so without accommodating for people with disabilities, we're stifling voices. We're not being represented. And oftentimes it's women and girls who suffered the most from this. So these are just a few stories that I personally heard that stuck with me. And I encourage you, as you all continue in your journeys, to start understanding why gender equity is so intersectional and how it can inform what your role is as an advocate in these spaces. Because we're not talking about one issue when we're talking about gender equity. And that means regardless of what background you have, whether it's in public health like me, or in STEM or in the humanities, whatever your background or whatever your age or whatever your demographic may be, you have a critical role in advocating for gender equity because it affects all of us, every single one of us in this room. And as a result, all of us really do have to be at the table. So I realized that I'm at time, but I look forward to coming back later on in the program. And I can't wait for you all to hear the stories and perspectives of all our amazing panelists today, who are women, who are young women leading incredible change through embracing their roles in these spaces and through just by being here, inspiring other women. And I also want to thank everyone here today who's sitting in the audience. Thank you for being here. You are in your own capacity being a change maker by being so open and embracing of learning about these issues. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your empowering message, Himaja, and for also highlighting the intersectionality of gender equity with all of the other 16 SDGs. What a great way to start our discussion. It's now time that we hear from our 5 accomplished panelists. For the sake of organization and efficiency, we have organized a specific order for our panelists to speak. This order was decided randomly. Each speaker will have about 3 minutes to answer each question. Thank you, Nidhi, Zoe, Kleb, Hellen, and Kaede for joining this conversation. We are so excited to learn from you. Please begin by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and the work you do to advance SDG 5. We will start with Nidhi from India.
Thank you, Madeline. I would love to give my introduction and the organization I'm connected to with the help of my slides. If you can help me present that.
I'll be starting soon.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Before reading out my bio, could we just move to the next slide? Thank you. So, hello and a very warm and happy International Women's Day to one and all present here. I'm Nidhi. I'm representing India and Study Hall Educational Foundation on this immensely beautiful day. So, before talking about talking about myself or giving my introduction and the kind of work we do at SHEF, I would like to talk a bit about the status of women in my own land, the land from where I come from. So in India, it is generally said, and mostly all women feel that they are unsafe, unwanted, unfree, and unequal, which is a very saddening situation. Almost a survey reported that almost 50% of the girls in India they feel they don't want to be girls, and they are not safe in the womb of the mother due to female feticide, selective abortions. They are not safe. Yeah, they are not safe in the home because almost over 40% of the women, married women, they have to undergo domestic and sexual abuse. They are not safe on the street as well. This all shows a very dismal picture and a saddening picture. So, Madeline, can we move to next slide, please? But not to get saddened, because all, we have hope, we have silver lining in all the sad situations and moments. And similarly, we have one organization, that is Study Hall Educational Foundation, and which is working for sustainable development goal number 5. And let me brief you about what is SHEF and what kind of work it does. So SHEF is a non-profit organization. It is working out of Lucknow for women empowerment. And the tool it takes, or the path it takes for empowerment is education. And that is a transformed education with a special focus on social justice and gender justice. Until now, we talk about the SHEF's impact. The SHEF has impacted more than 5 million children, that too specifically girls and women. We have trained over 100,000 teachers, and we have also reached out and impacted over 1,000 schools in India. So we do all. Can we go to the back slide? Yeah, no, the one with the SHEF one. Yeah, thank you. So we do all those things. We advocate for gender equality by implementing critical feminist pedagogy in all our schools. And this critical feminist pedagogy is part of our official curriculum. And this helps students, and specifically girls, to develop a gender lens to look at the social power structures which are really unequal and oppressive. They need to, this teaches them to how to understand these structures, find their position in these structures, and then challenge these structures. And for doing this, we provide them safe spaces of critical dialogue, which are basically the facilitated dialogue between a teacher and the students. And we also provide them the safe space of drama to express all their emotions, and through which we try to bring in the voices. We try to build an agency and build a collective resistance towards these oppressive structures which are existing. Next slide, please. So yeah, here it is me. I would also call myself a product of SHEF. I'm a proud alumni of Study Hall Education Foundation, and I see huge role of the kind of education they have provided me in transforming my life. These are the two pictures. One is me studying at my home, and then one is me at my college library. Can you move on to the next slide? Now, specifically talking about myself, so I think I am an aspiring youth leader and belonging to a Dalit community, which is a marginalized community in India, and it is historically marginalized. So in this picture, you can see in the background, the first picture, the background, in the background, it is my house and this is my family. And the second picture is particularly the one I really like because this was clicked. This is a picture of my proud and happy parents when I scored high grades of 95% in my class 12. And this is our source of income. So next slide, please. So this is one of the clipping from the media coverage which I got to celebrate my success story. And this is my college picture, like a board where I'm standing in my college. And I'm presently studying at Miranda House, Delhi University, which is among one of the top education institutes in India. And I highly contribute this to SHEF, the kind of education they have imparted. And now I'm working. I had previously worked with them as an intern, and so I'm now working with their initiative to promote and advocate gender equality in my community further. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Nidhi. Now we'll hear from Zoe Terry.
When I was in first grade, I was bullied because of the color of my skin and the texture of my hair. I was the only one that looked like I did. The only one with dark skin and puffy, kinky hair. On top of that, my fine and gross motor skills were bad because of a stroke I had. These girls would make fun of my skin and my hair, and they would call me slowpoke because I couldn't ride the tricycle as fast as they could. This made me feel ugly and so bad about myself. But instead of staying in that negative place, I decided to do something about it. I started my company because I wanted Black girls to know that their image was beautiful, despite what anyone else thought. And I thought because of that time I was 5, giving out beautiful Black dolls to Black girls so that they would feel beautiful and powerful, just the way they are. Since starting my company 8 years ago, I've given out over 36,000 dolls in 7 different countries. I reached over 40,000 girls, and I have also expanded my company to include 6 empowering programs. My name is Zoe Terry. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am 14 years old, and I am a strong Black girl, and I'm the CEO of Zoe Sauce. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Now we will hear from Kleb from the Philippines.
Yes, hi. I have slides to share. Me. So I'm Klebsiella Joiz Pasion from the Philippines, a third-year student taking up BS Nutrition at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and I am a member of Philippine Association of Nutrition Alpha Omega Chapter, or PAN-AO, and the current external vice president of SBCF UPLB. Maybe at the back of your minds, you're asking, why is there a nutrition major here and part of the panel about gender equality? Let me tell you that I do agree with Himaja a while ago that we cannot attain one SDG without attaining all of it. That's why, as an advocate of proper nutrition and food, we believe that in addressing malnutrition or attaining the zero hunger, we must also support other initiatives. And securing food and nutrition, the agricultural sector plays a major role in that. That's why I'll be focusing more on the agricultural sector of the Philippines. Let me share to you the current status. Next slide, please. We celebrate today the International Women's Day, and on a global status, yes, next slide, please. On a global status, 43% of the agricultural labor force is comprised of women. Imagine the participation of women when it comes to agriculture, and 15% of food in the world is produced by women. However, in the Philippines, next slide, please. Some organizations still fight for gender equality in the agricultural labor force. It is said to be that the farming is supposed to be a woman's job before, but now that there is a means of production that is being controlled, it became a man job, not a woman, and women were being set aside, said by the national chairperson for Amihan Women, a mass organization of women peasant workers. Next slide, please. So, what is the current status of gender equality in the agricultural sector of the Philippines? Next slide. You see a data produced by the Philippine Statistics Authority states that the farming or fishing chores made by women is considered as family labor and not as a hired labor. You know, it should be the women's discretion if they wanted it to be as a hired labor or a family labor. If they chose it to be a family labor, then that's something to commend them. But if they wanted to brand or indicate label it as a hired labor, they should be compensated well. However, next slide, please. There is still widening pay gap when it comes to the agricultural sector. You see the the prices there, that there are really gaps, that women farmers are less paid than male farmers, and we want to address this because we believe as a nutrition student that if we less compensate women farmers, it may result to malnutrition to their children, to them when during pregnancy, and a lot of it. So I believe that as a nutrition major, we must support other initiatives too. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Kleb. Now we will hear from Hellen.
Hello. Hello, my name is Hellen Kiute. I am a project assistant from Soko, Kenya. I am 25 years of age. My course in my undergraduate course being sociology with IT. My passion for social work is what drives me, and thus making my way into Soko Community Trust. Soko Community Trust is an NGO started off in a small village in Voi with mainly the aim of eradicating period poverty and normalizing menstruation. This is what triggered me to joining Soko Community Trust. I first joined as a volunteer. At that time, I was looking for a job, but still, because of how passionate they were and how they would assist the child from the grassroots in managing periods and in managing periods generally, is what triggered me to joining Soko Community Trust, even as a volunteer. Yet I was looking for a job. So what they do, they own a Soko EPZ, which now produces clothes that are sent abroad and sold. But they thought, with these clothes and with these leftovers, why don't we reuse these clothes and make out of it a sanitary towel that is reusable? Whatever led them to producing such sanitary towels is because the girl from the grassroots, which is where I also come from, was using things like used rags and petty clothes and sponges and basically mattresses to put on during her period, and this was discouraging, and this led them to losing their self-esteem, not going to classes. Their education was also put away with. So with this, they wanted to keep this girl in school. So how do you keep this girl in school? They resorted to making the reusable sanitary towels. That is our CEO, Joanna Maiden, together with our team leader, Victoria Tieno, and we are such a big team. I'm actually at work currently So yeah, that is what we basically do. Apart from reducing period poverty, we're also normalizing menstruation. And this is by involving men to simply get on board with menstruation and understand menstruation and take in menstruation as a normal thing that they cannot avoid themselves with. They may have sisters, they may have daughters. So what we try to do is for them to embrace menstruation and have this discussion in an open forum. In the African society, such discussions are a taboo, and it's a no-no when it comes to menstruation. They say that is a hidden agenda. The mother and the daughter should talk aside, but you do not want that. What if this girl has no mother? What if this girl is stuck and cannot tell anyone on the needs of her menses? So what we are doing is making them feel free and normalizing menstruation generally. So far we've reached 688 boys in schools, and we have also reached the men. We have reached 472 men. At first, I won't say this has been easy. At first, when we were giving out the kits to men, they were like, no, I cannot touch this. So this is just a progress we are doing. And the ones that are soft with it, we are trying to engage them so that they may also pull the others together in normalizing menstruation. Apart from just reducing period poverty, we are also training both boys and girls on life skills and menstrual hygiene management, so that the girl can be able to manage and the boy can also show empathy and understand this girl whenever she's on her period. Apart from the school-going students, they also deal with women in the grassroots by teaching them and giving them knowledge on their financial stability. This way, they are able to tell when they're abused, or they're able to stand up on their own whenever they get any gender-based violence cases or any sexual abuses from people. So when you give them something that they can see and that they can open up to, like starting a business or engaging themselves in group savings and loans, which we also train on, this way they're able to be firm and stand on their own. So that is what we basically do. That's why on my slide, it's more of a student receiving a sanitary towel. So that is what we mainly do. Yeah, so that is what we mainly do. So we have the kit with her. With the yellow package is a small kit, consumes of 2 reusable sanitary towels, 2 panties, and a bow. So that is just basically to show her how she can maintain her periods. This is not enough. A sanitary towel can 3 years, but this is not enough. So we're looking for seek and gain organizations, or looking for other avenues to assist. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So yeah, basically that and more to the organization. So it's basically an EPZ. Under the EPZ, we have the Soko Community Trust. Under the Soko Community Trust, we have the Kujua initiative. And Kujua is a Swahili word from the Kenyan language to mean to inform or to bring someone of knowledge of something. So that is what we do, and we are a great team here, and that is what we do in the grassroots. The government also tried to provide sanitary towels to these young girls. So they do provide the throwaway sanitary towels. Ours is the reusable sanitary towels, but whatever is provided by the government is not enough for the girl. The period may extend and the sanitary towel is over, so we provide for them the reusable.
Thank you so much for sharing, Helen. Now we will hear from Kaede.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. It's so inspiring to hear all the stories. I am from Japan. My name is Kaede Omori. Yes, thank you. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so I am a student in Hiroshima University. Maybe you know Hiroshima from the history. It is a peace city now, and in there I am studying the gender and career. So just give you a little bit my background. I also doing a student organization for gender equality, running a small shelter in India for street girls. And also I went to the Philippines last year to study the gender issues. So today I just want to share what I am studying about the reality of gender gap in Japan. Can you go to the next slide? So as you might know, gender gap index in Japan is we're not really great score. So there are a lot of problems and issues we need to make a progress. So can you, if you see the graph, it shows the female labor force participation rate by age group every 20 years. And the top green one is the latest one, but many of them, so basically the number of working women in Japan is increasing, but most of them cannot continue their jobs after having a family or their late 20s because there is less support such as childbirth leave or child care leave in their workforce. Moreover, some women are employed but as a non-regular worker, which creates a pay gap. So, but there is less opportunity for girls to realize there is a gender gap in our society because 2 years ago, some medical school even manipulated their entrance exam not to pass girls, even though they scored really high. This mainly because female doctors quit their job when they get married. So such things are often happening in Japan. And the problem is we are not really taught about the reality in school. But we have the Equal Employment Act for 30 years, but it's still like women are expected more in work and home. So law is not really effective yet. And I am currently doing job hunting, and some company in interviews, they ask me if I want to get married. So still we need to get really progress. So can you go to the next slide? So I'm gonna, like, if I have a chance, I'd like to talk this more, but there's like lack of mindset understanding in our society, especially there's a huge difference between younger generation and the elder generation. You might know like Tokyo Olympic chief, 82 years old, he actually commented very sexism remarks last month. But younger generation are more open and motivated. So there are some organizations trying to improve that situation. And I'd love to, as one younger woman in Japan, I'd love to be connected to those who are here today, and maybe we can collaborate with each other so that we can impact more for gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaede. We have such an inspiring panel this morning. I'd just like to take a moment to recognize how amazing it is that we have 5 young women in 5 different time zones discussing the importance of gender equality. This really captures the significance of International Women's Day. Moving on to our next discussion topic, please tell us more about gender issues in your community, including how they might intersect with other social issues. And if you can, please expand on how aware people are about gender issues in your community. and how prominent gender equality activism is. Nidhi, we will start with you.
Thank you for that. First of all, thank you for that really important question. So I think the question includes three parts. So I'll try to address three parts. So talking about how much awareness is there in my community with regard to gender inequalities existing. So I would say that awareness is something which we cannot measure in numbers or terms, but then we can definitely see or try to discuss awareness in terms of how extensive it is and how intensive or how deeper it is in the society. So I feel that though people in my community and here in India, particularly talking about my city and my state, I feel the people have this awareness within themselves that they have the awareness about gender equality is done in a larger sense. By larger sense, I mean when gender inequality is manifested at a larger level, it is clearly visible. For example, if a child marriage happens in our community, or perhaps if a woman of the same working for the same hours and doing the same kind of work is paid less, so there might be people are aware of this, that this is because of the gender equality, that this is the manifestation of the gender inequality. So they will try to act upon this. So these are the larger manifestations which are widespread and people are aware of it. But then again, the problem comes that not many people are driven by action. They are just aware of it and they just sit and they don't have the courage to question the existing oppressive social structure, which is patriarchy, which is creating all these gender inequalities if we talk about. But when we talk about the deeper understanding of inequalities, I think there are very few people who deeply understand the manifestations of patriarchy in a woman's life. For example, talking about my case, like I come from India, so there's this general tradition that women of the family, they will eat the last. Whenever they'll dine, they'll eat the last, that to the leftover, as in whatever is left after the men of the family have eaten. So and nobody questions it. So this is basically, we have internalized oppression. So we question the larger manifestations of patriarchy, but we forget to question the very subtle or very smaller thing which happen in our day-to-day lives. Now, so this is, we can say that there's widespread of awareness, but that we need to go more deeper into it. So talking about how prominent is, that is a very important question to address. How prominent is gender equality advocacy and initiatives in my community? I feel we have a lot of organization, a lot of motivated individuals who work for gender equality, and we have also created a lot of impact. Talking about organizations like SHEF, there's another organization which is Wahani Scholarship, which sponsors exceptionally bright girls and students all over the India for their higher education. So we have people who are there to support and help and advocate on gender lines. But then again, the problem is we need to see whether we have just organizations and people which are just dealing with the symptoms of patriarchy, as in patriarchy stops a woman from achieving a good quality education in India. It stops women from having a good health status in India. So are we just trying to address the education, the health, the employment problems of women, or are we also trying to delve deeper into it? So the question here is that we need to even rethink about the organizations which are advocating it. We need to not just deal with the symptoms of patriarchy, but we'll have to go back to the root causes of it, and we have to question the system of patriarchy in itself, which is deep rooted in our society. And now moving and talking specifically about intersections, which is like a topic of prominence and a very important topic. I think Himaja is also quite driven by intersection part. So whatever I learned from her. So here at Study Hall Education Foundation, like me, most of the girls, they come from highly economically weaker sections. So there's class interjection in the intersection in the gender part. There is also caste. Caste is specific to my country, that is India. So caste is another very rotten and a social structure which is like which is which we Indians are holding on for a very long time. And caste, I belong to a community which has been historically marginalized, and it has been marginalized and oppressed in terms of caste thing only. And here at Study Hall Education, most of the girls which come, they are from suburbs of our city, and they belong to economic lower section of society. They belong to the backward castes as well. So we try to not only deal with the gender inequality and not to teach them how to overcome these issues, but we also try to, at the same time, we try to tell them through different means and methods which we follow. We try to tell them how gender is one layer, then there is another layer of caste which is acting, then there's another third layer of class which is acting for them, which is making things even worse for them. So we are working on that. For example, for caste, for gender, we have already developed and implemented a curriculum in our official curriculum, and for the caste, we are working on a caste curriculum, and we have a lot of discussion, open critical dialogues. We hold a lot of webinars, meetings, and everything to talk about these intersections as well, how they are, exaggerating and making the situation of women in India even worse. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. Just to make sure we stay on time, we'll hear from Kleb and Kaede on this question, and then we'll hear from Hellen and Zoe for the other question. So Kleb, would you like to share?
Yes, just like what I discussed a while ago, there are really gender inequalities when it comes to the agricultural sector of the Philippines. The question, how aware of it? I think they are much aware of it, but they do not participate in the activities or initiatives that can address that. Or they see gender, they see gender as something complex. That's why they do not really support, or they do not give their 100% support to initiatives um, on lessening the pay gap in the agricultural sector. And also, um, if how prominent the equality activism, I believe that in the Philippines there's a lot of women organization, women empowerment organization, guerrilla youth, like the mass organization I presented to you, the Amihan Women. There's a lot of organization or activism that is being done in the Philippines. And again, I focus more on the agricultural sector and the gender inequality there, because my major is also in nutrition, and agriculture plays a big role when it comes to fighting malnutrition or solving, eradicating malnutrition. I think that's how I think that's how gender equality activism intersect with other issues like malnutrition. There are also agricultural reforms that must be supported, must be put into law, must be supported, funded, and implemented in order to address the gender inequality problems in the agricultural sector. And again, I wanted to echo the point of Ma'am Himaja a while ago, that we cannot achieve that no hunger in SDGs if we cannot address other if we do not goal to achieve other SDGs too, also with gender equality. That's why we must educate women what their rights are. We must empower them to fight for their rights, and we must equip them with the knowledge, the skills that they can use in order to perform well and to um, do those jobs that people think are man jobs, but obviously women can do it also. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kleb. Kaede.
Yes, thank you, Madeline. I just want to make a comment about what is the question of what uh, what is a comment of how gender inequality activism intersect with other issues. So I'd like to point out like gender inequality in Japan. So as I said earlier, so the most of the women are employed but as a non-regular worker, which means their salary is less than men, and that issue is becoming more serious currently because of COVID-19. So during this pandemic, a lot of women lost their jobs in Japan, and the suicide rate is actually increasing among women, and especially because those who are not non-regular workers, they easily lose their jobs, and mostly they're single mothers, so which can connect to poverty in like children as well. So yeah, I think most of like participants today is discussing about how important to educate the children first. I think in Japan we don't really have the curriculum for to learn gender in up until high school. We just learned it in university. So I strongly think that we need to start teaching how important the gender issue is and what is a reality in like in the world to small kids, and like changing their mindset is very important. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaede. As our final discussion topic, we'd like to give our guests information on how to support girls and women in your community. So please tell us what we can do and how we can support your efforts. So we'll begin with Zoe.
So you can support women and girls by supporting organizations that are being progressive in gender equality, such as my organization, Zoe Dolls. We work girl empowerment. You can support me at Zoe Dolls on everything. So that's ZOESDOLLOS. On my website, www.zoedolls.com. And also just be progressive, advocate for gender equality, advocate for what you believe in. Don't stay silent, because silent is not going to bring change. Voicing your opinions and voicing and taking action for what you believe in is critically important to making this issue aware to people, but also making people care. Because when you show that you care and that you're not going to let up because they disagree with you and they don't think it's important, doesn't mean it's not a critical issue that you face and that other women face today. So just being aware and being an advocate for what you believe in is critically important. And supporting women, just loving and normalize supporting women and normalize having women's back and normalize standing up for women who may be undermined in their workplace, in their environment, and just being that support system for women in our communities. And just loving one another and helping young girls and helping the older generation as well. As we mentioned, the older generation is not so understanding or may not be so knowledgeable or about gender equality and how it affects people today. Just making people aware about it and trying to help have them understand why it's important. And just supporting girls is really important. And I'm coming out with a podcast that's going to be focusing on these issues entitled POV with Zoe. It's going to be highlighting issues that women face in the community, youth face in the community, just voicing their issues and sharing their opinions, because I feel like that's a big part of what conferences do, like what this is doing. Something we really need to work on as a community from everywhere, like from India, everywhere. We need to work on sharing our ideas as a whole and working together as a whole, not making gender equality not just a problem for women, but a problem for everyone, something that we can all work on, something that we can all improve on, something that we can make change for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. And I'm so excited to listen to your podcast. Now we will hear from Hellen.
Yes, regarding on how aware are people of gender inequality in our area. Gender inequality is evident in the way girls are brought up, in the way they are perceived, in the duties they're given, in the way they are not so priority, but they do not know that this is called gender inequality. They see it as something normal, and that is what we are trying to make them see. So they're not aware, but progressively, just a few percentage are aware. So progressively, we believe that they will be aware. Regarding on how does the gender equality activism intersect with other issues, our main issue on how gender intersects is now curbing period poverty. period poverty is what is ongoing, and it affects the young child out there on a very serious note. And when girls miss school on an average of 5 days a month because of their menstrual periods, then they end up missing a quarter of their school calendar per year. So that is something that is so broad, and they miss a lot. By them missing out, they tend to lag behind in their education. They tend to lose their self-esteem because of what I told you earlier. Whatever they use is not so hygienic and it's not so safe. So mainly it intersects with period poverty. That way we try as much as possible to donate the reusable sanitary pads, and so far we've donated to 11,300 girls. So yeah, that's how it intersects with period poverty. It also, gender inequality also intersects with other issues such as education. The girls are not able to go to school and finish their courses. It also intersects with how young women and even older women can be entrepreneurs and stand on their own, because if they go through gender inequality in their home, this makes them feel like they are not able to even do a small business or even start up a small business, because they feel like they are under the man and they do not have a say and they cannot think on their own. So what we do is train them on entrepreneurial skills. We have several trainings, including financial literacy training, where they can invest in their own savings. We also have group savings and loans, where they can save their money in several groups and have a share out by the end of the year. They can profit through the interest. We also have business skills. So through this, it helps eradicate gender inequality. They're able to stand up on their own. So yeah, mainly we do period poverty. Yes, and also maybe just to add on gender inequality, we also do training. This way, we do trainings on both the boy and the girl child. This way, we help to normalize menstruation. We also help to help the boys not understanding this girl, and also training basically on life skills on how important both genders are in the society. So that's how it intersects with other issues. Madeline, you are on mute mode.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I'm sorry. Do you think you can tell us how we can support the Kujuwa initiative?
Yes, kindly. How you can support. During our trainings, we call them the Menstrual Health Management and Life Skills Training. We train both boys and girls of grade 5 and 6. So currently we are training girls of grade 5 and 6. So what we have realized in our training is that the normal grade 5 student ought to be 10 years of age. However, in the community that we are in now, which is Ikambala, it's a small community in the coastal part of Kenya, you find that a grade 5 girl who is supposed to be 10 years is at grade 5 with 15 years of age. Yet in the Kenya curriculum system, issues to do with menstruation are taught in grade 6. So you tend to see that this girl has surpassed their grading system. So she goes through menstruation even before she is taught on how to deal with menstruation. And this is happening even in the lower grades that we do not meet with. So we would like any organization to come in and also assist these younger girls that is even lower grade, because you may find a grade 3 girl going through menstruation and she cannot talk about it because she feels shy and she feels like she's already too old compared to the other students. So what the other organizations may come in, so as we can bring in the lower grade, that is grade 3, grade 4, from grade 1 to 4. Because for now we are dealing with grade 5 and 6 in training them on menstrual health management and also providing for them sanitary, reusable sanitary towels, and later on will also involve the boys. So coming in with such an idea will also accommodate all girls. So for now, we cannot accommodate all girls, so that is how we would like STEAM and other organizations to come in. And
Thank
maybe,
you.
maybe, sorry, Madi, on a specific event, maybe I will point out, we always have Menstrual Hygiene Day, that is on 28th May. We always have an event. So we would like any organization to come in just to create more awareness on the program, just to bring in both boys and girls, men and women, to get to know about the initiative and to support. So any organization, any businesses are kindly welcome to support in any way.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing ways in which we can support women in your community. And we will be sure to keep the community we have built here up to date and informed about your future work and initiatives. So I'd now like to open the floor to a question and answer session. Feel free to raise your hand or send a question in the chat. I do have one question for everyone. What advice would you give to young women that want to act but don't know how to start? Any one of you can answer this question.
I don't know if someone's gonna have like the hand raised, but I feel like one way that we can help young women who want to get into activism is putting them in programs and outlets of where they can voice their opinions and find what they're passionate about. I feel like that's one way to like really enrich them and to like so really more informed on how you can be an advocate and how you can be progressive and how you can make change. Enrolling them to programs that do that and help form that for them is important and can actually really help them into forming their own ideas and forming their own opinions. So I feel like since we're young, once you give kids this space to have their own voice, I feel like they really develop their own voice and their own opinions as well. So I feel like giving them that platform and an outlet to do that, it's a way that we can help them develop a voice in activism.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Nidhi.
Yeah, thank you. So I would give an advice to the people who would like to start advocating about gender equality. So I would say that as we all believe that change starts at home, so start with yourself. Try to identify what are the structures which are limiting you, what are the things, critically think about your life, and then try to address those small issues, and then increase your outreach and try to address your family issues, gender related issues. Try to address them through reading about the legal procedures of your country. And other than that, you can look out for there are many organizations, many good initiatives which are working for this. You can reach out to them, you can write. Also, we at Study Hall Education Foundation, we are open to accepting interns. So if you're quite interested and if you want to look at our work from a deeper and a closer look, so you can write to us, you can visit our website. And moreover, we at Study Hall, we also run an annual campaign for as an community outreach and community engagement program, wherein we try to spread awareness. The name of the initiative is India's Daughter Campaign. So if you want to start, if you want to contribute to it, you can join it, you can be the part of it. You can be the part of the process of the change. You can sign in the petitions. So you can also contribute in a virtual manner to our platform as well. And other than that, I would suggest start from your individual level, your life, and then your family, and then your community. So that will be a good way to give it a start. And it is worth starting for gender equality, definitely.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. I really like what you said about starting with yourself. Hellen.
Yes, what I would say to young girls is that I will also agree with Nidhi, and basically your passion. The passion is what drives you. And maybe I can just use myself as an example. I first started out, as I said, as a volunteer, yet I was looking for a job. But right now, I am a project officer under Kujua initiative. So when I had in our village, I come from a very small village in Kenya, very minute. So when I heard of what they were doing with girls, it drove me, and I just literally could not think, and the passion really drove me to getting into this initiative, I really wanted to also make an impact. So your passion, let your passion be your drive, and you will be able to move mountains, if I may say. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Helen. We have another question. Have you had the chance to talk to any public official in your country about gender equality, and what would you ask him or her to improve gender equality? Nidhi, is your hand up?
I did not, but then I would like to address this question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you for that really important question. So if I had the chance of talking to a government official, I would perhaps question them about their responsibility and making them realize. I won't, I won't start blaming them that this is not happening in my community or that is not happening here in our community. Perhaps I would, from my own life experiences, I would try to talk to him, build up a communication, and see the other side of the story as well, like what happens in the government institutions, because I know humans are there and they do also have the good intentions of promoting gender equality, but then there might be some hindrances. Then I think we'll try to resolve it together, and I would try to definitely build an empathetic relationship between us, so that I'll ask him, I'll request him to visit our community. I'll request him to see the actual state of the people and what kind of manifestations are there which are leading to gender inequality in our community. And then then I would request him to try formulating such public policy, not only formulating but also implementing in a way that it really helps young women and people in the community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. Helen.
Yes, thank you. First and foremost, I would ask them to simply take in these girls who have gone through early pregnancies. Our government says that it is okay for them to go back to school, but what are you doing for them to feel okay going back to school? So what you're doing for them to feel okay is maybe through awareness of that these things happen, and preventing any kind of stigma reaching their way, and just simply creating awareness and just providing maybe just a space where they can bring their daughter in. Because during COVID-19, most girls in Kenya were able to, actually most of them got into early pregnancy, most of them left school. This affected a whole lot of people. So this way, getting them back to school is now what my question is to government, that they may be able to make them feel back to school, even though they're just back to school.
Thank you for your insight, Helen. So I think we have time for one more question. This is a good question. How can men contribute to women or to the women equality movement? What specific roles do men have in this movement? Kleb.
I didn't get, can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, yeah, of course. How can men contribute to the women equality movement, and what specific roles do men have in that movement?
Right. So first, I wanted to emphasize that you don't have to be a woman to fight for women's right, for women's equality. So whatever women is doing in order to fight for equality, men can obviously do it also. For example, joining such panel, sharing sharing information, how we can also fight for women equality, encouraging women, supporting and fighting for their rights, protecting them. Obviously, you as men can already, by simply doing those, fight for women equality. So you don't think that you're men, so you don't need to participate in this fight of women, because you are also included with our fight. This is a fight of gender equality and not just for women.
Thank you, Kleb. Nidhi.
Yeah, completely agreeing with the previous speaker. So we need to understand and build this conscious that gender equality is not just a woman issue, it is a human issue. And I would like because our organization, we have already started to think about how we can bring in more men and boys to support this initiative and this advocacy for gender equality. And we have had a good response from men and boys. It's not that they don't want to contribute to it. They truly want to. They are just looking out for platforms and ways in which they can contribute. So we need to first have kind of critical dialogues with our men and boys as well, and explain them that how patriarchy as a larger system not only impacts girls, it also impacts boys. It teaches them, like in our country, boys are also being across globe, boys are also being affected by patriarchy. So we need to make them understand that it is patriarchy which is telling you this false masculinity idea into it, that boys cannot cry, or boys cannot do this, or boys have the sole responsibility of running a family. So it equally impacts them. So we need to bring in these manifestations of patriarchy for the boys and men also. Once they realize it, they will definitely understand that how gender equality is not just about women equality. It's also a larger human fight which we have to fight together. And I'm hopeful that seeing the response of the boys and men from my own community, I'm hopeful and very positive that we'll definitely achieve gender equality.
Thank you, Nidhi. So Helen, Zoe, and Kaede, do you mind just giving a quick response to this, just so we can stay on time? Thank you. We will start with Helen.
Thank you. This will be very short. First and foremost, I agree with Kleb. You don't have to be a woman just to get on the side of gender equality, so the men can be on the other side. And then another reason, we are in this universe all together. If it's the man, if a woman starts a business, the man will be the customer. If it's in school, we will have schoolmates who are boys. If it's anywhere, I mean literally everywhere. So why not just simply cooperate and link up to support each other? That's just what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. Zoe.
Men can stand up against the patriarchal systems that exist. So basically just protecting women from harmful policies that discriminate against them and ending toxic masculinity. I feel like there's a lot of misogyny involved with the relationship between men and women that we kind of don't really acknowledge or talk about. So talking about that and ending misogyny and this prejudice against women. And also knowing that feminism doesn't just mean women's rights, is equal rights for everyone. So being a feminist does not just mean you only support women's rights, you support equal rights. So being a voice as a man is protecting the women you love and support.
Thank you, Zoe. Kaede.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick comment. I all agree to the other four girls, and just want to say that that discussion we did today is the thing is gender gap or gender inequality is socially created by our stereotype or mindset. So it is all made by human, which means we can just change it because we are the human. So that I think that feminist movement or this kind of movement is not like women want to overcome men. It's just we want to become who we are, and just try to make our own decisions as whenever we want. So that is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaede. Thank you to our audience members for all of your questions. If you do have a question, we can connect you to our speakers after the panel. And thank you to our speakers for your insightful responses. I'd now like for us to give our attention to Himaja to present our call to action.
Thank you so much, Madeline. And I just want to take a moment for all of us to pause and just embrace how incredibly amazing all these 5 women panelists were. Nidhi, your concentration in education for empowering women and girls is so inspiring. Zoe, your focus on women entrepreneurship is leaving me speechless. I absolutely love the work that you do. Klebsiella, your focus on nutrition and agriculture is so fundamental. And is such a core topic of discussion that needs to be further elaborated on. Hellen, your focus on sexual and reproductive health is so critical, and it's something that we're seeing disproportionately affecting women and girls during the COVID-19 era. It's the fight that needs to keep on happening. And Kaede, your focus on normalizing gender equity and equality education in your own hometown, and just being here and sharing with us your expertise is really, really inspiring. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all of you guys and all of you in the audience. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad that we're doing a call to action. And the reason why I'm glad is because we oftentimes talk about these issues on a large scale, and people are often left wondering, how do we actually make change happen? How do we make change happen right now in these seats that we're sitting on? How do we make change happen in honor of International Women's Day and in honor of Women's History Month and in honor of the year and the years to come? So as part of UNA USA, the United Nations Association of the USA, I have a few advocacy asks that mostly pertain and are materials that I've pulled from my organization. But I'm also really excited if other people put into the chat some resources that they have from their own local spaces that could be of use to everyone here today. So my advocacy ask for you, I'm going to pull it up fast, is for people in the US, if you have a phone with you, you can ask your members of Congress right now to support the UN's work to achieve gender equality by 2030. So if you text woman to this number 30644, you'll be able to send a direct message to your members and personalize your letter to something that really speaks to you. What are you passionate about when you think about gender equity, and how can you continue the good fight? And for my international folks out there, I do have some other things for you. I am going to drop into the chat a few links. One is the general website for UNA USA. UNA USA is part of a world network of UNAs, and it's all under the World Federation of UNA. So you can look at our website, UNA USA, specifically UNA Women. That's what I put in the chat. But you can also look for your other local UNA chapters that are located around the world. And for most UNA's youth membership is free. So young people take advantage of that. It's a really great way to meet other change makers and to be able to have a bigger platform for your voice. I also dropped into the chat an International Women's Day toolkit that our National Council put out recently. And this has a few call to action items. So if anyone is interested in getting on social media but is not sure what to say, and the character limit for Twitter just really throws you off like it does with me all the time, there are some sample tweets in there for you that you can use. There's some other event ideas and ways to engage your community. And the last thing I want to highlight, and this is for everyone here today, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to sign up to attend CSW Parallel events. CSW is the Commission for the Status of Women, and it's starting next week. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, UN conference solely focused on gender equity and the empowerment of women and girls. And it's starting next week. Some of the sessions are available for you to just tune into, even if you're not an official delegate. So feel free to go onto the UN website to watch the live recording of it. But if you want to have another way to stay more engaged, I strongly recommend you sign up for parallel events, which are events that don't happen, they're not they're not 100% related to the actual Commission on the Status of Women, but they were formed in response to a greater call from NGOs and advocates that were all coalesced in these spaces at the UN, but wanted to put together a more collective effort to get people networked and connected to, and to give NGOs and other advocates a space to host their own presentations. So that kind of started the whole tradition of parallel events. So UNA USA is hosting several parallel events. There are organizations from all over the world. The panels include people of all ages and backgrounds. I highly recommend that you look into attending. And they occur in all time zones. So definitely feel free to take advantage of that, and it's free. So these are just a few call to actions that I had, but I did want to close off and just say, like, thank you so much for being here. Like so many of our amazing panelists have said, this is a fight that needs to involve all voices at the table, not just our voices. So for International Women's Day, the last call to action that I have for you is to recognize the amazing women in your life. For me, it's probably my mom and my sister. They constantly inspire me to be better every day, to be more self-reflective, and to really give thanks to what I have, but to also realize that, you know, my voice has power. And so I encourage all of you, men, women, whatever gender you are, to embrace the women in your life, to embrace yourselves in the space of gender equity and equality, because all of us really do need to be at the table. So I'm going to turn it back, but thank you so much for being here today.
Hello. Thank you so much. This has been such a joy to joining this panel organized by our SDG 5 ambassador, Madeline Ley. So I am Claudia Akel. I am the founder of Social Impact Movement, and it is a pleasure to be here hosting this amazing international panel. The idea that started inside our headquarters Zooms, and now it's all over. So first, I want to have some remarks and thank you to express. First to Himaja, UNA Women, for joining us. Scarlett, was wonderful to talking to you. Polly Yu from Carlsbad Sister City Ambassador. Urvashi Sani from SHEF, Study Hall Educational Foundation, for her support in weaving the connections with the Indian chapter and all these amazing girls. We have Scarlett Lances. She's the founder of Accountable Impact, an organization that works very close with Social Impact Movement, and she's also our board member here. Libby Abreu. Libby is the founder and CEO of Madeira Accessories. So in terms of call to action, I would say look at Madeira website and you'll see these wonderful bracelets with the power, SDG 5 power, all created by Libby. This is one of our call to action tools that we have with her. And also, of course, thanking Madeline Ley, the founder of Shrink the Gap, our wonderful ambassador, number 5, SDG 5, gender equality, for organizing and gathering all these amazing women. And to our Social Impact Movement and Social Impact Movement board directors for our constant support in letting us go further our mission, which is educating, engaging, and inspiring people to adopt and choose the SDGs as a framework for a better world for everyone. Thank you for joining us in this panel.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Hellen from Kenya, Kaede from Japan, Zoe from Miami, Florida, Kleb from the Philippines, and Nidhi from India. We are so grateful for the opportunity to be able to listen to your stories and gain insight into the important gender issues in your community. We look forward to supporting your future initiatives. Malala once said, "Our words can change the whole world because we are all together." I want to remind you all that our voices are important and using them is necessary to effectuate change. I'd like to invite everyone to join a LinkedIn platform we created to continue communication and collaboration with initiatives and activists around the world. I will include a link in the chat right now. Our goal is to create a platform that fosters international connections, and we want to hear from everyone, including our audience members. Finally, I'm going to echo what Claudia said. I'd like to announce our collaboration with Madera Accessories, a small Latina-owned business based in Miami, Florida, to sell our SDG 5 power bracelets to represent women empowerment and women's strength. And a percentage of the profits for this bracelet will be donated to social impact movement. To purchase a bracelet, please visit Madera Accessories on Instagram. Once again, thank you so much to our audience members, speakers, and special guests for joining our panel today on this very special day. Happy International Women's Day, everyone. And before everyone goes, it would be great if you could turn on your cameras so we can take a picture together. Feel free to unmute yourself and give a round of applause to our panelists.
Yay! It was amazing, girl. It was really amazing.
Ladies. You rock, ladies.
All right,
my picture. I don't know about you.
I'm taking a screenshot.
Okay. Please take all the screenshots.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. This was a great event today. Very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Celebrating women. It's our day, our month.